Hello and welcome to Welcome Home Radio. The waters in the mortgage industry can be pretty muddy, whether it's investing, leasing, renting, home insurance, or myths and misconceptions. Welcome Home Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, to help you make the right home buying decision for you and your family, here are your hosts.
And welcome to Welcome Home Radio, where real estate lending and learning come together. This is your mortgage market update for September 15th. The MBA reported purchase applications jumped last week. They were up 7% and 12% down still year over year. Purchases are showing great strength in a market where inventory lows are very much down by 12% year over year. The media does not know what the story should be. Last week, headlines were reading, mortgage demands fall to lowest levels in 2 months. And today's headline reads, mortgage demands from home buyers jumped to highest levels since April. So they're really confusing in what their narrative should be. But we are telling you that application buyers are out there and inventory is few and far between. Refis also fell by 3% and are down 9% year over year, but there are still 3.5 million people that would benefit from a rate and term refinance. That does not include cash outs or debt consolidation loans. That's just purely a better rate and term for their mortgage. While builders are still dealing with bottleneck in productions and materials, we only see builder confidence down another 5% over the last 2 weeks. With rates staying strong, we see a strong fall for builders. In seeing a jump in applications, markets is rather unique in what's happening. Buying, selling process is all over the place. With me today to discuss the topics of what it is that's happening and what it means to you. Of course, joining me all the time, Alan Pace with Fathom Realty, but a few of others, a frequent listener, David Tanner, as well as Michael Rodriguez with Fathom. Guys, thank you all so much for taking time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Blair, for having us.
Appreciate y'all. Now, I want to start off real quick. The market is still a seller's market. And correct me where I'm wrong. Being a lender, as Alan said, stay in my lane. But the market is still a seller's market. But we're seeing a slowdown. Aren't we seeing homes staying on market a little bit longer? Are we seeing a change? Or is it still the summertime where 35, 40 offers per home? What's happening out there?
Well, I think first off, what you're seeing is the typical seasonal slowdown. So we're going into fall. School started for pretty much all school districts, by now in the DFW Metroplex. So that's one thing. And then, so I think some people have kind of put the home buying purchasing process on hold just temporarily, but it's still definitely a seller's market. We're still well below, right now it's about 1.3 months worth of inventory in the DFW Metroplex. So it's still.
Now, I can't let you off the hook. What does 1.3 months inventory mean? Help our listeners understand.
Well, that basically means anything less than about 5 to 6 months is a seller's market. Meaning there's a lot more competition for the homes than there is inventory. There's very little inventory out there, and the home builders just can't catch up.
There's more buyers than sellers. That's what's
absolutely.
going on.
So what do you guys propose to do in this market? And we've got something in the background there, if we could delete that or mute that. But what do you propose sellers do and buyers do in this market? What is it going to be an impact to? What do they need to be looking out for as pros and cons in either position?
Go ahead, Mike.
That's a tough one. I'm sorry, Blair. It kind of cut out on me because I think something was backfeeding on mine. That's what I was doing. You want to repeat it again? I'm sorry.
What are the pros and cons in the selling and the buying game right now? What area, and you can pick whichever one you want to approach, but if I look at things in the market, is it slim pickings for home buyers? There's going to be fewer homes. Are they going to have to sacrifice some wants, or maybe expand their search in a geographical area, or what do they have to be looking for in this market to be successful as a buyer?
Well, it's going to come down to us as the realtor, one, finding the right market for them or the right place. But a lot of it has to do with, and everybody can probably agree, is that, when it comes down to, as like you said, it's a seller's market, does our client want to do that, go further, put down more for that home, get into that home? A lot of people just don't want to do that because they're so scared of doing that. And a lot of what I've been hearing lately is they're worried about the economy. Will it stay up with them? Will they be able to do this? And they're kind of leery of doing things whenever you try to go further on, putting down more for a home. It's basically, to me, you got to reassure them. And that's where we as realtors come in and show them all all the aspects of what that is, to show them where everything leads into and how it gets there. Because if we don't show them these aspects, then they lose faith in what they're trying to do.
And part of that is education to your buyers. Yep. And sellers. You can't time a real estate market. Nobody's good at it. Some people do it and do it right, but most just can't do that. So in Dallas, particularly, it's a growing community still. Dallas-Fort Worth is still growing. People moving here from around the United States and also from other countries. And this airport is cooking. Both airports are cooking. We're in the center of the country. 6.8 million people now in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And that's Boston big. So I don't think there's going to be a slowdown here in our area anytime soon. But education, like Mike was saying, is really big because people do get a little nervous about a stock market taking a turn. They get a little nervous about prices going up too fast, too. So that has settled down. Prices have mellowed a little bit. Houses that aren't perfect are staying on the market longer. The perfect ones still get multiple offers, but most houses aren't perfect. And it also, we're getting back into geographical area differences now again, where before it was just like no matter where you wanted to live and, whatever price point you were at, it was just ridiculous to try to buy one. But that's all changing right now. I think these guys know as well as I do. It's kind of slowed down a little bit. People are they have a little time to make a decision. There's more homes on inventory, even though David's right. Statistics always lag what realtors see in the field. So, I think we're gaining momentum on that.
And to add real quick to what Alan was saying, you've got two camps out there. You've got a lot of buyers who are able to work from home now due to COVID and a lot of paradigm shifts in the corporate world. So it really doesn't matter to them where they live. They can live further outside of the DFW Metroplex, and it's no big deal. On the other hand, you've got a lot of employees who still have to go into the office, and they don't want to live. If you work in downtown Dallas, you don't want to live out in Weatherford and have to make that commute every day. So with the shortage of inventory in the immediate Metroplex, people are having to go further and further out. And you may be able to get a better deal, but you have to weigh the odds. How long a commute are you willing to accept?
And a lot of it's about schools too.
In schools,
families want to be in the right school district, and they'll wait. Just the way it is.
One of the things I want to make sure we brought over one key issue of bid over or paying over. And one of the things that I partner with you guys with is that I have what is called, I'm going to really say bid over asking price. And what it means is I'm able to tell you how soon that home's going to pay you back if you pay over the amount. If you pay $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 over your value of your home, you're going to get it back in 6 months, 9 months, 2 years. Just some information that you can make an educated decision. And this is how lenders and realtors can partner together in this effort to make sure the client's making the best decision for themselves. Some people don't have a flavor for that. Some people have a flavor or have an ability to do that. In fact, my son, who paid $15,000 in Houston over asking because it was in the neighborhood he wanted to be in, or his wife did, and they were willing to do that, and they understood the payout. It was going to be roughly 18 months that they would receive equity position back once they paid that. We also, you mentioned the market. I think one of the critical things we see here in this market is that the Texas market in equity averages across the state 4.9%. But the DFW Metroplex, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, they're in roughly the 8 or 9%. Would you agree with that? Especially now, we're possibly even into double digits growth in some homes. David Tanner just did some valuations of my home, and literally in 15 years has a $200,000 profit margin. Now, that's just average, but man, that's a huge growth. That's 80%. So I think one of the things that we need to make sure we're educating people and doing the partnering is to evaluate how long, if paying over asking, is it worth it or is it not? And some people can't do it, we understand, but some people can if they really have all the wants being met there. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And I think too, and guys jump in here, we're like Alan was saying earlier, you're seeing a lot of clients come in from California, from the East Coast, New Jersey, New York, and they're bringing a lot of cash with them. I mean, we've seen houses that are going for, $50,000 to $100,000 above asking price. And that's no joke. And that's some serious coin there, right? As they say.
Can I stop you there for David real quick?
Yes.
I want to make sure our listeners understand there is a market that we're talking about, and that is really, and I don't know what the parameters, you guys give me that. It's really a $200,000 home to about a $550,000. Anything going into the 6, 7, 8s, they're going to stay on the market longer. There are less buyers for those. It's really that niche market of 2 to 550, wouldn't you say? Or am I out of line?
I think it's even more niche if you want to break it down to over asking price. The perfect homes, you're still getting that. But I'm telling you, the average homes, that ain't happening right now.
No.
Rarely.
Yeah.
Okay? So we're quietly approaching normality again a little bit, where a home goes on the market, people look at it, instead of 30 people the first 10 minutes, they're actually looking at it for a few days, maybe a week. I showed several houses, and these guys have too, been on the market 10 plus days, 20 days. So again, the perfect houses, you get way over list, but those are people that understand financial responsibility generally and have the money, and thus something is always worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Yep.
So that happens. But in general, the $200,000 to $400,000 houses, if a realtor does a good job at evaluating what the house is worth, then it's getting somewhere close to that money. I would still say it's going to be close to list if it's a reasonable job done by the listing agent. If it's too high, I'm telling you right now, the homes are not selling if the list price is greedy. They're on the market. And, you go over 10 days, your client needs to reevaluate, because it's not like it was a year ago.
Well, and I have a quick example of that exact thing, Alan. My most recent sale this past summer, we listed it, right at the market value, based on the comps and where we thought that that we needed to list it. Well, we ended up having multiple, and I'm talking multiple showings, probably over 40 total. Client sold it for well above asking price. On the flip side, 2 houses on the exact same street, and this was a competitor realtor, I won't mention names, he listed the house $50,000 above what he actually should have listed it for. And the only reason that he quickly came down $50,000 in about 2 days, because he saw what my client's house sold for. And so he was just shooting in the dark. I mean, he had it way overvalued. So, like Alan said, even in this market, people aren't stupid. I mean, you've got a lot of smart home buyers out there, a lot of smart realtors out there. They're going to be looking at those same comps, and they're going to call you on it.
Yeah, so to defend that other realtor, just real briefly, remember, we work for an owner, a seller. The seller is the boss. We are not.
That's exactly right. So we
give more than what you told me to.
No
yes,
matter
sir.
What,
yes, ma'am.
No matter what type of market it is, you've got to price the house right. from the get go, and
Yeah.
let the buyers drive the price up. If you're going to get multiple offers, that's what's going to do it. Okay, and if it's a right type of, depending on the price point, and that 200 to 400 is a sweet spot still.
So what you're saying, really, any listing agent needs to price it so you do create competition, as opposed to overpricing it. You're going to knock out a large portion of the offers or even attention just because of the pricing value. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's part of it, yes. Because if you overprice it, people are going to call you on it if they know what they're looking at. Now, a couple of months ago, maybe that wasn't the case. People were just throwing offers at whatever they could find, just to see if they could get into a home, and then they may be able to negotiate it down. But you still got to price it right, because if you come down too quickly like that, people are going to kind of start to question, well, what's wrong with the house?
Sure.
So we still have to do our jobs just like we've always done, with the added caveats there that it's a tough market right now, and you've got to be able to pivot very quickly, one way or the other.
I'll tell you what's hotter than a used house market is the used car market.
Right.
Oh,
Right,
God,
Mike?
yeah, definitely.
I'll give you $30,000 for your car. It's worth 20.
Well, I'll tell you, I've got a friend of mine who had an F-250. He bought it a year ago. He paid $76 for that truck, and he went back in just for grins, and they gave him $75. So he only lost $1,000 on that, on a pre-owned vehicle. And he's like, I was a fool not to do it. And I was like, well, I'm not so sure you want to do that with the new ones now, but but he did have, it went up in value considerably compared to what it would have been.
And just like the housing market, that too will change. But it's a good example on supply and demand.
Yep.
And we went through a really bad period of no supply last year and extremely high demand for a lot of reasons David said. COVID made a difference. And none of us, I'm sure you included, Blair, none of us really knew where the COVID thing was heading as far as the market. If you go back to March 2020, we were all afraid to touch the kitchen counter or the food at the Walmart or whatever. And so we didn't know, but it turned out the last 9 months of last year were just super amazing as far as home sales. Really, really through the roof.
Well, yeah, I would say pricing and equity growth. I mean, we're still going to see, I think, an increase in prices and sales. But what do buyers need to be on the watch for? What are they going to have to control here if they're going to actually win a bid? I had 36 pre-approvals. And so far, I've checked in with all of them, and I've only received about 5 responses. And most of those we're waiting. We're not happy with the market. We'll stay back a little bit. What else can be going on? And so what is it that a buyer needs to be? Hey, I need to be flexible here. I need to be wary here. Where do they put their stakes in the grounds? What hill are they willing to die on? What are they willing to be flexible on to help be successful in this market? What advice can y'all give?
Well, there's a couple things. If you're talking about a $200,000 or $300,000 house, which a year ago was $150,000 to $250,000 house, they still need a lot of work. They're older. Yeah. They're in older neighborhoods. They need fixing up. So a lot of buyers who are getting their first houses in that price range, they don't have a lot of cash. Now they're pre-approved because they have good credit. They're responsible. They can cover maybe the 3.5% FHA or the 0% VA. But if they move into that home, saying the VA says it's okay and FHA says it's approved, they move into that home, they got work to do on that house.
That's right.
So, and they don't have the money to do that work. So they hesitate due to that. I see that all the time. David's answer was new construction, and that's a great answer. But David pointed out another good point. It's way out of town. And a lot of people don't want to live way out of town. They love the new house thing, but they don't want to live way out of town. Even if they're working out of their house, they don't want to move to East Texas when they're from Fort Worth or something. So,
well, and I just closed on a new build last month, and at the end of last month, and fortunately for this client of mine and this builder, they didn't go up on the price at all during the construction phase, unlike a lot of other builders out there who can, depending on what's in their contract, they can go up on that price whenever they want to. Well, I talked to the builder right as we were getting ready to close, and they said that the next phase that they were going to start, the average price was going up $30,000 on the same type home.
Yeah.
Floor plan. Yeah.
So you've got that in play. And as far as a buyer, I mean, as realtors, one day we may be a buyer's agent, and the next we may be a listing agent. So you're working both sides, and a lot of buyers are just willing to give up everything. I mean, they're foregoing inspections. They're doing appraisal waivers. I mean, they're doing very little option period. It's very risky to do that, but they're doing it because they feel like if I don't, I'm not going to, be a contender on getting a home.
Another subject that never comes up about supply and demand is the dirty word, inflation. So you got all the materials going through the roof to build a new house. Thus, the price of resale houses are coming up also. But there's a lot of parts aren't available. I mean, on a new build, some houses get bricks, others have to wait. Some get the windows, some don't. I got one going on a year right now.
That's like you said, Alan, when you said that, I just attended one with a client, and the builder told him to pick 3 bricks because there's a possibility out of the 3, they may get one, and it may not be the favorite because there's such a back order on brick. So when you're talking about materials.
Well,
lumber doubled and bricks have doubled and parts are not available. So
we lost him.
And that's another reason, they don't really get good answers right now on a lot of different levels.
Well, and the same thing is happening with the appliances. This house that we closed on, they had to pull appliances from another house that was being built just so that they could close on time and get the second appraisal done, before they closed on this house. Because, with the chip issue that it's affecting automotives, appliances, a lot of technical devices that we use every day, there's a huge chip shortage that's really hampering the market.
Why is that happening? Do y'all know?
Well,
yeah, y'all got the guts to go there. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, basically what I've heard, when you're talking about the chip shortage, that's, because of the COVID and everything.
Yeah.
And that goes to where, and this is, because my experience in the car business, a lot of my friends I've spoken to that are still experiencing this right now is because they didn't know where they left off with COVID stuff. And so now they're urging you to be very careful on what you choose to buy during that period. I don't know if you guys seen, but there's some articles floating out there and a lot of stuff going on that you got to be careful if you're lucky to make it to your first oil change, because a lot of them are throwing rods or, a lot of mechanical issues within the motor itself.
Well, I was asking more along the line, why is there a chip shortage in these industries?
Well, it's just because from what he was telling me is that there's just so many cars that were made and they're having to go back. They don't have, because of the COVID thing, it all goes back to that, keeping them from getting to that, getting that supply and demand out there of that chip.
I think there's a lot of other reasons floating around out there, but
yeah,
we might not want to touch on those.
The major supplier of chips to America and the manufacturing industry, whether it be appliances, cars, automotive, whatever, is China.
China.
Yeah.
And China has cut that off.
Yeah.
No COVID reason. They've just cut it off. And we're trying to satisfy manufacturing driven needs. I mean, it's a challenge. And
on the positive side, I just got a new Maserati chip put in my Toyota Corolla, and it flies, baby. That car just flies.
Well, I'll tell you
1,000 horsepower with the littlest motor you ever saw.
Well, and like we talked about earlier, Blair, you've got inflation concerns. I saw last night where there's still a major shortage of truck drivers across the country. Restaurants are really struggling to get the goods to the restaurant, so they're really having to skimp on their menu. So there's a lot of different things going on out there that's affecting many different industries, not just the housing industry.
Well, and that's so true. And that's where I guess I'm really trying to focus on sellers and buyers and what they best need to know, because again, mortgage rates are staying the same. There is no change. We don't see a change majorly. The rates bouncing around have really somewhat stopped for the market. We've been pretty stable for the last, oh my goodness, since the middle of August. What does a buyer, because home prices continue to skyrocket. If I look at the DFW Metroplex, here's the basic overview. 7.5 million residents, median household income 75,000, unemployment rate 7.6, but median home price 264, or median monthly rental is 1563. And that's a mortgage. I mean, renting that's a mortgage cost for somebody, so that they're not losing money every month, or they're paying off somebody else's mortgage for the most part.
Well, it's a great question, Blair. It's the perfect storm. I mean, buyers are having to reset expectations. That's the bottom line. Okay. What you wanted a year or 2 years ago, you may not be able to afford today. So as a realtor, you've got to really sit down with that client and determine exactly, number one, what do you qualify for? Okay. Because I'm not going to show somebody homes in Highland Park if they can't afford Highland Park. You know what I mean? You've got to find out exactly what their budget is. What are you willing to spend above that? What can you afford? And as a realtor, I work very closely with the lenders, because you've got to be able to communicate and keep that line of communication going from the very beginning all the way to the closing table. So it's a matter of, going back to the basics, and that's sitting down with that client and determining what it is that they're looking for and what can you realistically afford. Because
there's a basic message here too of, sellers need to realize the market is quieting a little bit, and they can't, unless the house is perfect, they can't go to the moon with the list price. And buyers need to be aware and educated that, hey, come back out of the shadows. We have a little more inventory now. Let's go look at some homes.
Yep.
And I think that's what's going on. And I think it's a good, healthy thing. It's happening in other markets as well, not just Dallas-Fort Worth.
What, with the economy and inflation growing, economy slowing down? I mean, I think, can we agree that the economy is slowing? Do you see any increased growth? And with people coming off of the COVID / bump per month starting in September, right after Labor Day, employment is still, there's 20 million jobs out there. And people aren't willing to go to work. We haven't seen that change. But what is the economy doing? With it slowing down, what's it going to do to the impact of the market? And somebody like me, who I could move if I wanted to, I don't. But what do you advise some sellers? What do they need to be looking at? Because like you just said, we're not going to get the best deal that right off the cuff in one day. It's going to take a little while. But also, I look at it, where am I going to move to? That's my biggest concern. I'm not going to go rent. There's no reason for me to sell if I don't have something to go to downsize or right size, or however you want to call it. So I'm going to stay in my 4-bedroom, 3,200 square foot home because, hey, we're comfortable there, and the family comes home there, and I don't know. I'm just trying.
It's a big house. You got room for me?
I can rent you upstairs, I'm sure.
Rent? Oh my God, rent.
Well,
yeah.
Again, and guys jump in here, but like we just talked about earlier, it's never been a better time to buy a home from a mortgage perspective, because the rates are so historically low. They've never been this low before, and probably never will be again. On the flip side of that, it's also a great time to sell if you're a seller. But then where are you going to go? Because if you're going to sell at top dollar, but you're also going to buy at top dollar. So, if you're trying to downsize, that's one thing. You may be able to pull that off. you may be able to save some money, but it's really challenging because I know I've talked to some clients, this past summer that, like you, Blair, would like to sell, but they don't know where they would go, what they would replace that
Well,
with.
and I have a hard stop. I have several things geographically I want, and I'm not willing to bend on those. So you know what? I stay where I'm at.
Sure.
But some people may be able to be more flexible. Alan said it earlier. School districts are a driving force for families, but for people that are, empty nesters like me, and I don't have, maybe I'm working from home, I can work with geographical situations a little bit easier. And I guess I'm just trying to plant the seed for folks that going into this market for the last quarter of this year. I mean, I've got 36 pre-approvals. These people either are deciding to pull out of the market, or they can't find something because they're not willing to bend, they're not willing to be house poor, or they're just not finding what they want or able to do.
I think you touched on it pretty well, Blair, when there are different levels of buyers and sellers. In your category where you're empty nesting, same as us, we could sell. I just helped somebody move into a 55 and over condominium, and we're selling her big old house. Okay, so that was easy. That was easy.
A big old house. I haven't heard that.
Bigger than 3,200. So
that's a Texas. That's a big house in Texas. It's a big old house.
I mean, big
anyway, the bottom line is, a husband died and she needed to get something with no maintenance. So you got that level of folk who there is inventory, condominiums built specifically, townhomes built specifically, neighborhoods. That's one. The people that struggle are the first-time home buyers and those at the lower end of the
economic value
purchase. It's paycheck to paycheck people that hurt the worst. So it's going on, and there are always going to be people, first-time home buyers, that back out. There's a lot of reasons. One, they weren't sure in the first place. Two, oh my God, I'm going to own a house. I have to do stuff. It's a responsibility. Three, I think the big thing there is they want it, but everybody wants the same thing, and there's never enough of that. Right. They want a house that doesn't need to be worked on when they move in. They want a house that's in the perfect neighborhood for them, and there's not a lot of that. There's a lot of average, 80% houses.
Well, can I ask a question? Because you said something there that bothers me.
Okay.
If we take the average DFW rental property, 1563, 1563 times 12, that's $18,756 a year I'm throwing out the door.
Yeah.
I will never see again. I can't understand that just because I got to mow a lawn, or I have to clean some dishes, or I have to, take care of a yard, or whatever the case may be, that is not a big enough motivator to see fly out of my pocket every year. But yet you're telling me it's happening.
Absolutely, it happens, and it's been happening ever since I've been in real estate. That's not going to change. There's people that have credit. There's people that don't have credit. There's people on the borderline, and they're comfortable in their lifestyle. Obviously the logic here is financially. Yeah, buy a house. You can't, like you said, you can't make $200,000 in your 401k in 8 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So you can do that in real estate, but a lot of people that are first-time home buyers, it's not a money thing. They have less than $20,000 in the bank. Majority of them probably less than 15 or 10. And 80% of America doesn't have hardly any savings. So you're dealing with a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of renters forever and ever and ever. And then you get the older generation. I've got several friends just a few years ahead of me, and they rent now. They sold their house.
Alan has friends. Wait, time out. Let's go over this. Do you guys believe that?
Acquaintances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I believe that.
I got two that literally sold their house. One got a motorhome and is on the road, The other bought an apartment or rents an apartment close to her in Capel.
Yeah.
So it's
And-
funny you say that, Alan, because what I've seen, and it's just when I was up in the Sanger area, you got a lot of RV parks popping up. People
Yeah.
are going there
Oh,
buying
goodness.
RVs and living out there, selling their homes and getting rid of all that responsibility, and that's where they're wanting to go.
Well, I just talked to another agent that I know, and she and her husband bought land up in that corridor for that specific purpose. They're going to build an RV park out of it.
You can't get a spot. If you got a motorhome right now, there's not a spot. You can get a spot maybe for a day or two or 4 or
Yeah.
a week. You try to get one for a month or two. And my buddy who's got, not my buddy, my acquaintance who's got a motorhome, he just got back from, 3 years on the road. He will buy a home. He can afford it. But he needs a place to put his motorhome. Can't find it.
You can't find it.
Can't
That's right.
find it. So he approached one of his acquaintances in Bartonville.
Well, Blair, and back to your point earlier about renters.
But most people can't do that. You cannot even find a place to put. And he said the people at the mobile home parks are saying, man, California, Oregon, those states have people coming here in their motorhomes and their fifth wheelers and their travel trailers, and they're living. They're living in Texas and want to get away from the high taxes, the way of life out west, and they love Texas. And they're all looking for homes. I wish I knew more of them. I might go hang out at the motorhome park and just say hi. I'm David
that's
Tanner.
funny.
Can I help you?
That's funny you mentioned that, because this client of mine, they moved here from Oregon and they have an RV. Well, they wanted a brand new home without an HOA. Well, fortunately, we found that, right? We literally found an addition where no HOA. Up in
How far out of town was that?
Up in Josephine.
Oh, where the heck's Josephine? That ain't even in Texas.
It is in Texas. It's up in northeast Collin County.
You must have a 4-wheel drive.
That is for, and so anyway, it's beautiful, beautiful neighborhood. No HOA. Well, they paid the builder extra to build the longer driveway so they could park their RV.
Yeah.
That was something they were not willing to
But
give
that
up.
also permeates the whole thing of it's going further and further outside of the
Yes.
metroplex. And there's a lot of people that are able to work from home now. It's a choice.
Yes.
That's why I find it so funny, these mandates, how many people are going to stay at home and work from home as much as possible instead of having to come into the office. I guess nurses and doctors and others and school teachers don't have that, option, but many of our industries have that. And I mean, my son-in-law moved away from DFW. He still works for the same company, but he lives in Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister just moved from San Antonio to North Carolina, and she, no big deal. It's just telephone and computers.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we answered. We probably raised more questions. We definitely found out, that Alan has acquaintances, not friends. And, but guys.
I like John Wayne too, Pilgrim.
Yeah, amen. Amen. Bring the big Duke back.
That's right.
I think we made the very good statement of, hey, you need to educate yourself. You need to be aware of your options, and there's always options. Sometimes the best option is not to do anything. Other times there are options, but you have to sit down and listen and take advice, look at things differently. One of the things, the final aspect I'm seeing popping up in the market, I'd like your opinion on, is I'm seeing a lot of these, hey, we'll make you an offer, we'll sell it now type groups from Zillow to others. What are you seeing the impact to that happening in the market? Because I think that's an impact where people, hey, I don't want to mess with this. I don't want to make it better. I just want to sell my home and get out of here.
Well, I'll just tell you straight up, I think there's a place for those kind of folks in any market. I don't like the way some of them do business, but I'm sure they don't like the way some
Expand
of us
on
do
that.
business.
Don't give us generalities. Come on, give us some meat.
Well, I think that there is a case where people, death in a family, sickness, divorce, they just want to sell fast. They don't want to do repairs. They don't want to do showings. They don't want to talk to a bunch of realtors. and we're perfectly capable of identifying those people as realtors and introducing them to what you're trying to call an iBuyer. Okay. And so there's a place for that in a market. Now, the other half of it is, those companies also compete against Mike and David and me. Yep. And you, Blair. They've got their own lenders, some of them. So they're coming after us. And at the same time, a lot of realtors and a lot of lenders continue to support those people financially. And so it's hard to be a realtor and cry about it while you're supporting them. Yet, as a person, as a human being who really does want to help somebody, if they're my client, if there's a need for that service and I can identify with them that it's the right way to go, that's the way we're going to go. Yeah. I'm not going to talk them into going through the whole rigmarole of listing and showing and repairing and all that stuff. So that's where I sit on it, and I've got experience with it, and I'm continuing to learn about it. And so I'll have more to say about it later, but not this week. And we'll go from there. But I believe if it's good for a seller and I represent that seller, then I'm doing a good job with that seller.
So,
well, and keep in mind too, what we've also noticed, and like Alan said, there are situations where that may be the best option for our client, because there are two things. COVID, number one, they don't want a bunch of people in their home. People working from home, number two, they don't want to be disrupted with a bunch of showings and having to leave the house every time somebody wants to come and see it. And these iBuyers, honestly, a lot of them don't care. They'll buy that house from somebody and they'll turn around, fix it up, put it back on the market, but they don't care how long it takes to sell it, because I've seen some of those sit on the market for 30, 60, 90 days in this type of a market, and they don't seem too concerned about that.
Well, a lot of them are public companies. They're making profit.
It's market.
It's all
share.
about profitability. And the bad and the good there, David, is the bad is they don't care. Yeah. And the good is they don't care. It's a business. Yeah. And some of our clients, Mike, chip in, buddy. Some of our clients just want to get down to the business and not go through the rest of it. They can look at their house and go, yeah, I raised my kids there and my dog died and all that stuff, but I moved on mentally. I'm on my next place, and you get rid of this.
Well, the only thing I'm starting to see is a lot of people that are trying to put their house on the market are seeing that, when Open Door and people like that come in and they're just selling these houses for bare minimum, what is that doing for their return? And that's where we have to reassure them that, this is what they're doing, because like you said, they don't care. It's a business. I can get it sold whenever and for whatever. But I don't know if you've seen that a lot, but I've seen that a lot on social media where people are worried about that, because they come in and those big corporate companies like that will do that and just sell that house for a little of nothing.
Oh, and you'll see the grass is long, and
they
don't pick up the papers, and so that's all part of what a listing agent can do for you if you're a seller. But if you're, if you want to take less money and you want to be fast and get some cash, you can do that, but you're always going to get less money.
Hey, we're gonna have to break it down here. I want to give a last 2 minutes or so. All three of y'all are with Fathom. I'd like y'all to tell us, I think all of y'all came from different organizations to Fathom. What's the difference in Fathom? Why did y'all go there? What can people expect when they deal with you with Fathom Realty?
Go ahead, guys.
I'll let you take it up, David. Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no, great question, Blair. I came to Fathom back in January, and it was a smart move for me. Fathom is a brokerage that they really focus on the agent. I have a lot of autonomy with Fathom. I can do so much more with my clients. I have a great support staff behind me, not just on the back office, but from a brokerage standpoint. I'm never without support. I mean, if I run into an issue where I need to contact my broker, I can get a hold of them pretty quick. And if one's not available, I can go to the next one. So it's very agent focused, and that's why I joined them.
And I'll have to say the same thing. That's exactly why I joined. It's just the knowledge that's here, and the realtors that are involved in Fathom like David said, that if you need help, somebody's always willing to help you, and it's within a matter of seconds. Everybody wants to see everybody succeed, which is what is supportive of us. That's what makes you a better agent, because if everybody supports each and every one of us, we're going to be the best we can. Because that's, even when you're on teams and stuff like that, that's what it's about. So I love it because just like David said, I can come in here and do this, and I'm if I get into a tight spot, I can have somebody to fall back on and get some wisdom from, so that I am the best realtor for my client. It makes it more easier for me to talk to my clients and keep them, sure of who I am as their listing agent or selling agent, whichever company may be the case. But like I said, it's been wonderful. I like how everything's geared toward the agent, and when you feel appreciated, you're going to do much better in this business.
And that's exactly what Fathom does so well. I've been in the business a long time, and Fathom is agent first, client, then brokerage. And happy agent is happy clients, positive. You heard how positive these guys were just now. It is really a great environment from the top down. And there's none of this me at top. It's about, what can I do for you? How can I help you? And I'm not saying other brokerages don't do it, but you literally feel the love with Fathom. You really do. Every day. There's positivity going on, real training, real help. And the way they structured their business plan for realtors, that's pretty good too.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I appreciate y'all. I think one of the things that I love about Fathom is that it's veteran owned, and that just means the world to me, and the opportunity to help out veterans. And so we're very grateful for you guys. Thank you for being on today. I hope we can do this soon, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. I'm Blair Thomas.
Hi, I'm Alan Payson. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
God bless. Thank y'all so much. Take care.
All right. Thank you, guys.